So I'm Myrtille Lacoste, and I will be sharing the afternoon session, well, afternoon in France at least. We will start with a keynote from Giulia Marcocchia from the University of Ca' Foscari and as well the Ecole Polytechnique in France, so a truly international person who speaks 4 languages, is a diver and a violin player expert. And someone who was awarded Best PhD of the Year in Paris-Saclay. So we are very lucky to have Giulia here with us today. She's a research and consultant in ecosystem design and structure, and her experience has mainly been in the car industry. So a great way for us to see what is happening in other sectors. Are you here, Giulia?
Yes, Myrtille, I'm here. Thank you very much for the introduction, and good afternoon, everybody. So as you said, it's a very international profile and international experience. So I'm very honored to be here with you today to share what I lived and learned so far in terms of the relevance of the digital tools and applications in an ecosystem context. I'm going to share my presentation though, so everybody can see it. Okay, so we were going to have a very quick journey through what the digitalization means in the industries, what it means to scalability, and what is the lux of the challenges today, because it's shift from a linear point of view to a more networked configuration, and what is the path to navigate into it to create and capture value, and how to approach this from, let's say, a general rules point of view with a hint on a tool that can be provided and deployed from companies and from institutions together to help actors to navigate this. So agricultural sectors is in a huge transformation path. If we think about the intersection of sectors, and we see it with the flexible full systems paradigm, with the vertical farming, with the P2P precision agriculture, everything is driving us to look at different sectors. So have a look at what other sectors can bring to us in terms of configuration. We talk about Internet of Things, but if we look in a broader view, we have Internet of Energies, in which knowledge and information and energy, so resources, are flowing in a different way, and in a way in which data play an important role. As well for the healthcare system. The healthcare system has been under a huge transformation, not only because of the pandemics, but the pandemics just emphasized this, in which data flow and platforms functioning are enabling new services and new performances. As per a very recent study from McKinsey, we are also having hints on how different industries can organize to capture value, and not just to give the value to the companies very specialized in digital platforms, and it's working in an ecosystem way. So looking at the networks and looking at how the value chain are complementary. So this is a very important, very strategic for every actor. Just a quick look at the automotive sector, because I come from here and I keep studying in this field and in other fields as well. Is, as you see, my way of working and way of collaborating changed from a linear model in which you have a manufacturing and components manufacturing to a networked systems in which you have several elements and several technologies that are enabling you to create new way of producing, new way of being competitive, new way of being proposing services in different sectors. And numbers of partners, and numbers and diversity, which is also very important, of partners you need to work to, is increasingly high. So it means that innovation becomes a very complex matter, and not just about I'm having a good idea, as I might have a good idea, but I'm not the only one that can bring this to the market, and how you make this scalable. From my research, My research showed that you can see this through different angles. You see this from an angle of the perimeter of a business model and from an organizational point of view, as I'm showing here. So in those two dimensions, we saw that in this sector, so in the automotive sector, we had an escalation of level from what concerns the number of actors involved. So in order to perform a value proposition, I had one actor, maybe two actors with the co-design process with the main component, and then several actors, several private actors, and then several private and public actors with users involved. On the other axis, you have the business model perimeter is from a direct value, and performance is very well defined and known, to a number of performances that go beyond the use of the object or the use of the service, and the performance goes in through societal. And this is how you can locate what's happening. So from the user's perspective and the value creation for the one who needs to adopt something to make it scalable, I go from a simple object that gives me a performance to a complete system that needs to orchestrate a performance with several actors. And this is how we're shifting from automotive to mobility. So nowadays we're not talking about automotive anymore, but mobility systems, and even more complex with the autonomous driving, which is setting problems from an ethical point of view beyond the technological performance. If we see this from an angle of disruptiveness, so we are in a very, very high level of disruptiveness, a very high level of systemicness on the other side. If you're talking about scalability, how this changed? It's changed that the problem of making something scalable from the innovation management literature and experiences is that you need to find niches in which the users are able to take the risks. And it was happening in a very linear way as well. Now it's not linear anymore, as niche markets cannot approach by one company. Niche markets and the value propositions are not staying in one sector. Think about the autonomous mobility, which is the electrical mobility that now is under a lot of industrial and public programs, governmental programs. You need to coordinate several actors from a very beginning of the research perspective towards the commercialization of an idea. And the adoption from a group of users is influenced from other groups of complementers and users in an organization of dynamics that's typical of the platforms, of the digital platforms, and not on a, let's say, traditional industrial way of working. And the innovation has multiple dimensions. So innovation was rated in terms of course, novelty, but now we have environmental concerns and we have a societal concerns. And these are very difficult to evaluate in terms of quantification of it and to integrate in KPI for every industry. So what it drives us to tell is how can we search, how can we find answers on this exploratory process, because we are in an explorational process of unknown situations with those type of challenges. So I'm giving here now some references from the literature that comes from the innovation management fields and the design fields. I went through the exploration of the platform's dynamics and the deployment for the performance in an ecosystem setting, and how an ecosystem emerges. So how the actors are playing to structure, how they act together to create value. What are the context settings? How do align customers? How the decision making is distributed? The trust is created. And still no answers. So no answers, but elements that are driving us to say we are in exploration. So it's design perspective that needs to be taken. And from a design perspective, then we find more elements. We find more elements on the collaborative innovation. What is needed? There are principles saying how we can organize the creation out of something that does not exist, or knowledge management from a purpose that is common to the actors. How I align the problematic situation in which policy needs to be designed as well. And so the dimensions are several, and this is why it's very important to change perspective and to take the digitalization, not just tools to be applied. It can be a drone to be used in an agricultural field, but see a broader view of it. To give you a taste of what it can means from an actor role playing, then let's just give a little bit of information on the ecosystems from a literature point of view. So the ecosystems are based on several actors. The actors are mainly of 5 types. So you have the focal firms, and the focal firms are the one transforming something. Then you have the suppliers that supply the focal firms, the customers, and then you have complementers. Without them, the transformation is not possible. So they can complement in some technologies or some other products, and of course the competitors. So those are the actors, but it's very important to understand which roles they have. And the roles in the ecosystem are very much codified. So you have 4 of them. It's the keystone, the kingpin, the bottleneck, and the anchor. So we're not doing now a class on all this, right? But I think it's important for you to know that the creation of the value, if you take a decision of doing something or an investment in doing something, needs to be done and to be taken under the light of where you want to be. Where you want to be in an ecosystem, and mainly with functionality structure at a platform, in a platform approach. So this was one of the cases that I studied, and I studied under a European project, a research project aimed at making the best use possible of the data of the citizen. And this is one of the, I'm making a step back. I apologize for this. This visualizations is quite functional, but in order for you to understand the strategic point of view of this framing of the situation through ecosystems, it's very important to see where the values is transferred. And when I approach the ecosystem research, say I have to pair this with the value network design. And as the value network shows, this is an example for Apple, for instance, you can see the different arrows with different colors are showing the different type of transactions. And different type of transactions is very important to identify different type of value of the innovation performed. So if it's tangible, not tangible, direct, indirect, it's all related to understanding where I can be, or where I want to be, and how I can create collaborations for doing this. So the very specific case I wanted to talk to you today is based on the goal of using the data collected by the European citizen driving cars in order to improve the mobility of Europe, and in order to improve the new service creation, and also enhancing the environmental performances. So under the Horizon 2020, a task was assigned to a group of firms and institutions, that you see it here, with 3 major automakers. Atos here for the mapping, a company specialized in climate forecasting, and universities for studying business models and the platforms itself. So the aim was creating a digital platform to marketplaces for collecting, enriching, and sharing data and creating services. Now, all this was very nice at the beginning, but the problem is that the companies didn't understand, especially the ones having the data, so the resources to be shared, the OEMs, didn't understand what was the potential scalability of this, as it wasn't existing. So we're talking of a project that has been kicked off 8 years ago. So it was something that now is on every discourse. It wasn't that much at that time. So the problem was to understand what is scalable in this, how I can make a really disruptive innovations out of something that we never shared, and we are a competitor, and we need to make a jump in the wild. So this is how the design of the value network, so highlighting the value, has been used as a way to explore together what was the unknown. And what was the unknown happened to be very good cases for some of them that developed beyond the Horizon 2020 project. So that was the result of the value of the value network design, which you can see several actors. We discovered more actors that needed to be involved, and different type of values compared to the few ones that usually in a value network you can design. So you have a different place for the European regulators, for the national regulators, for the one allowing funding for this type of projects, in which the revenue, the return on investment is still, maybe unclear to be discovered, or if it's discovered in a time frame is longer than compared to what the industries the firms can support. Having found that, we found also what was the process for different actors to align this. And the process was based on a digital platform functioning. So as you can see here, it's a visualization of a platform in which you have the marketplace as a digital platform heart, and group of users. The group of users, they exchange resources. And the more one is available to give one resources, in this case data, the more the other ones are available to get service needs, and in order to structure data in a different way. So we started the project with a very small groups of around the platform, and we enlarged this. Having new users and new performance discovered. But the hard thing is that sometimes the time frame of certain projects is not enough to complete this process. And complete this process means that the partners need to align. And alignment is the key point that you will see in all literature as the one to be still understood in terms of how to perform it. And what we found is that there are four moments in which you need to align on concepts, and you discover that what you thought at the beginning was not reachable. So you accept that you need to failure on some targets, and then you need to realign and realign it in a systemic level and within your organization. And then you can go and see for new partnership and enlarge what is finally being the structure of the new value proposition. How is this relevant for us? This is relevant for us because it can give us some hints on how to move forward, something that has been highlighted for the agricultural system recently in the literature. So in the literature, we are hearing that for the emergence of the innovation ecosystem in which we will create and capture value, you need to interact with the research institutions. You need to have the fund coming from the venture capital or having access to the accelerators. You need to experiment to create new markets. So again, exploration of unknowns, and you interact in the form of networks and not in linear form. And all this should hopefully drive to lower end of the cost of the software, which enable further actions. As a key drives to the ecosystem toward the performances, so 4 phases have been identified in the agriculture: the connecting, the framing in arrangement settings, the knowledge brokering, which is very, very important, and the exploring phase. Again, exploring. How can I explore? Having said that, for the platform success, there are several keys items to be picked for the success. So the openness and easy access, the expandability and modularity based on how I set the rules, being in a large and dynamic ecosystems, which I have to create and animate for this. I need to find new markets and design new business models and establishing rules. What has been the experience that we see is that you need instruments. So the digital platform is a digital tool that you can use, but in order to make it performative for what we want to achieve as a goal, you need to work in a very flexible way. So we found a form of projects we call proto-ecosystem projects, in which you can actually play this exploring actions in a sequence way or iterative way, and therefore we can set progressively into a new way of working and cooperating. So you will expand boundaries in which you don't have dominant design and you construct new ones. The coordination, therefore, is based on different typology of articulation of the project partners' project goals, and they discover it progressively. How they discover also the incentives to move forward. They discover also that the impact is beyond one firm, and this is not a problem, but it's a resource. And the flexible by itself must be more flexible. If you, on the way, you discover that you need more people on board on a project, then the project frames and the contracts must be flexible for allowing this enlargement. As the exploration and collaborative levels are higher than any other type of project frame or setting that has been discussed so far in the literature and the industry. And I hope that I was on time for allowing then further your presentation and further discussion, Mathilde.
Thank you very much, Giulia.